All right, so this is an important issue here because I just got to get at why. Like, what is the end goal? Because we have societal standards and family units, all of this, it serves a purpose. And it's frankly for the betterment of society, having communities, people that respect one another and live by a certain code of ethics. Why would they want to just throw that all out the window?
Trish, if you keep talking like that, Garland is going to sick the FBI on you. You got to be very careful with that kind of language. What you're saying is obviously true, and I certainly agree with that. And the left understands that as well. They understand the importance of norms and standards and taboos. They're just trying to undo all the norms and standards of taboos. That's why they've redefined the family. That's why they're now trying to redefine man and woman. That's why they're redefining the origin of the country, not 1776, but 1619, as the New York Times insists. That's why they're trying to redefine everything. And unfortunately, there are a lot of squishier conservatives who don't want to recognize this fact. They think that a society doesn't need standards and norms, and we can all just do whatever we want to do and live and let live, and as long as it doesn't, offend the horses or make me pay for anything extra, go ahead and live your life. But that's not how society works. Man is a social creature. We're a political animal. We're not isolated individuals. And so meanwhile, the left upends all the standards, the conservatives totally concede it, and the left gains a lot of cultural ground.
Well, it's getting a little strange. I mean, the whole thing on the Catholics right now, part of it is, maybe these Catholics are too faithful to their church and thus don't believe in the whole LGBT. I always get this wrong, so I'm not even going to try, but the whole acronym. They don't believe. You want to say it? I always have to look at it.
Element of P.
Thank you. There's a Q at the end, I think. But because Catholics don't agree with that way of life, suddenly now they are persona non grata. And I would just say, look, Michael, I'm a big believer in people. I again, live free or die in New Hampshire. That's how I grew up. And you do what you want to do, but don't impose it on me. And I shouldn't have to agree with it or be faced with the kind of harassment that people are being faced with, right? I mean, this is still a free country after all.
Well, it should be. We hope that it's a free country, but increasingly you're seeing that is probably not the case. I remember some years ago when Senator Dianne Feinstein was grilling Amy Coney Barrett, who at the time was up for an appellate judgeship before the Supreme Court. And Dianne Feinstein said, listen, Amy Barrett, you are a Catholic, but you sound like you're a really serious Catholic. The dogma lives loudly within you. And it was a really telling moment. Because what Dianne Feinstein was saying is that when there is a conflict between your faith, in the case of Amy Barrett, it's Catholicism, and the liberal faith, you might pick Catholicism, and that would be really, really bad. Whereas for our prominent Catholic leaders, nominally Catholic at least, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, whenever there's a conflict between Christianity and liberalism, they always pick liberalism on abortion, on marriage, on gender, on all the rest of it. They're always picking liberalism, and because liberalism is a jealous God. So we want to be tolerant, we want subsidiarity, we like our federal system, we want decisions to be made at the most local level at which they can be competently decided. But we do have to agree on some things. If we're going to have a society, when we say words, we got to know what they mean so that we can communicate. We have to know what a man is. We have to know what a woman is. We have to know what marriage is. If we can't agree on those things, then we no longer have a society. And so what the left has done is just redefine all of those things. And conservatives haven't mustered much of a vision to counter it.
That's alarming because it's going to send us in a direction that I think really ultimately will be a kind of anarchy. I mean, we've seen it, right, during the summer of 2020 and the violence that unfolded in this idea that, of course, you can go loot that store. They have an insurance company that'll pay for it. And by the way, they deserve to be looted. There was this sense of entitlement. You're seeing it right now. Randy Weingarten getting up, just having a total meltdown because she thinks that the Supreme Court should vote in favor of Joe Biden sending helicopter money to, gender study grads from Vassar, no offense against Vassar, by the way, it was really intended for the gender studies, I guess, that maybe didn't even graduate. When you've got people in America, hardworking people that actually really are struggling in this new economic environment with very high interest rates. So I don't know why there's such a sense of entitlement, other than this is one big engine, this education engine that wants to feed upon itself and continue to spit out kids who can't get jobs, don't have the skills, but have a mindset that's completely in line with what the left wants.
Well, this is the fear that the Founding Fathers had, and the fear that ancient political philosophers had about democracy, which is that democracy can be a wonderful, very fine thing when the people are ruling for the common good. But then if democracy degrades into mob rule, then people are just going to be passing policy to enrich themselves merely for the private good. And that's what you're seeing with Randi Weingarten. It's amazing the way that this woman gets up there at the Supreme Court, starts shrieking about the idea that Joe Biden can't forgive the student loans with just the stroke of a pen, doesn't even need to put the thing through Congress. And what has Randi Weingarten said? She said that when the money is coming from the government to the businesses, it's all fine. By the way, that was ratified by Congress. But when the money is going to our students, then it's not fine. But we need to be very clear here. The money we're talking about would not be going to Randi Weingarten's students. Randi Weingarten's the head of the Public Teacher Union. Mm-hmm. For starters, she doesn't have any students. She represents union members, that is public school teachers. But second of all, she's representing people K through 12. I don't think seventh graders have a whole lot of student loans. Really, why Randi Weingarten is getting up there shrieking at the Supreme Court is because the people who hold those loans and who have to get not only a bachelor's degree, but a master's degree in many cases, are the teachers, are the union members. So she's once again representing her constituents. You saw this all during the COVID lockdowns. There was a conflict between the union members and the students. The students needed to have an education. The union members didn't want to go back to work and wanted to keep getting paid for it. Well, guess which side Randi Weingarten and the teacher union came down on? Obviously on the side of the members. It deeply harmed students. It harmed their psychology. You saw increases in rates of anxiety, stress, depression, suicidality, and it really harmed their education. Now, the silver lining in the storm cloud is that at least the kids weren't being taught gender queer and all sorts of bizarro world
No, but
ideologies.
they were learning it on TikTok.